The time was World War II, when all the powerful nations of the world were fighting among themselves and many soldiers were losing their lives every day. At this time, a young boy who was only 6 years old took part in this war and led his country to victory in this war. What happened to the little boy and how he became an army? Friends, you are watching the Secret Story Recap YouTube channel. Here I am with you about Hollywood movies. Today I will tell you the story of an interesting freedom fighter movie, which is based on a true story of Soldier Boy movie. So let's start the story of today's movie. At the beginning of the movie, a boy named Sergey is seen sitting in a tree. Some distance away, his brother Peter is seen fishing with a hook. And just as his mother was washing clothes in the pond, she saw a German fighter plane flying towards them. She gets scared and tells Sergey to come down from the tree. He had a slingshot in his hand and the plane exploded. The next moment we see that he was actually asleep. He had been dreaming for so long that the horrors of war had a profound effect on this little boy. So he was dreaming in his sleep. He got scared and kept calling his mother. He heard a knock on the door and got up and opened it. As soon as the door is opened, the auntie of the house next door enters her house in a state of panic. The woman immediately hugs him and tells him that you are lucky that you are alive. Sergey wants to know where her mother and grandfather are. She wants to go to her mother. In fact, the place they live in was occupied by Russia, and Germany invaded Russia in World War II. They brutally killed Russian gold as well as ordinary Russian citizens. In fact, the German army wanted to occupy the area, so the German soldiers killed the people there and burned all their houses. She knew in that look that if Sergey was not sent away now, some of Sergey would be killed because they were so cruel. So he takes Sergey out of the window of the house in a shirt and tells her to run if you want to save your life and go far away from here. That time soldier firing through the window and it hit the woman and she died. He ran away and looked back to see that their house had been set on fire and he ran into the forest and fell asleep in the forest. The next morning we see Sergey drinking water from a river flowing through the forest. Then he hears of the German soldiers, knowing that if they saw him, they would kill him like his mother and grandfather. So he hid himself there without making any sound. Hiding from there, he saw German soldiers setting fire to the riverbank where they were heating their food. Suddenly he saw a snake coming down from the tree where he was hiding, and the snake came towards him. He was very frightened when he saw this poisonous snake, but he sat there like a brave boy without any movement. Because he knew that if he moved, the snake would bite him, and if he screamed, the German soldiers would find him and kill him. After a while, the snake left, and the German soldiers, after eating and drinking, left the river bank and headed for the forest. He ran to where the German soldiers were eating and, taking a box of food from there, he ate some food and went back to the forest. In fact, Seryozha had not eaten for 2 days, so he was very hungry. He was so hungry that he ate grass leaves and some kind of fruit in the grass to satisfy his hunger. At that moment a German army fighter plane flew over the jungle and they dropped a bomb in the jungle and it fell right behind Seryozha. The bomber struck shortly after noon in front of a police recruiting center. He was terrified, but after a while he stood up with a stick in his hand. He thought there was a German army around him. So he tried his best to save his life and shouted with a stick in his hand saying that no one will come near me with a gun, and if you come near me, I will be forced to shoot. I am not afraid of any of you, and it is understood that Seryozha was intelligent and also a clever and brave boy. Then he started moving cautiously from there to the front. After a while it became night and Seryozha became very tired and he fell asleep in the forest. In his sleep he had a beautiful dream in which he saw that he was sitting in a field with his grandfather and mother. Her mother is feeding them milk and fruit. She is very happy with her grandfather and mother. Then the sound of a hedgehog wakes her up. When he woke up, he was very hungry and then a heavy downpour of rain started dripping water from the branches of the tree and Sergey started eating that water. He was so hungry that he fell asleep leaning against a tree trunk. After a while some people come there and pick him up. A Russian military base was later seen briefing a Russian commander on the enemy's next war strategy. In fact, Russian troops brought Sergey to their camp. The commander asks her about her parents, and she cries because her mother and grandfather have been killed by German troops. The commanders and the soldiers were very upset to hear that they had lost their mother and grandfather at such a young age. The commander tells him that you are a brave boy. After saying this, they bring Sergey good food and take care of him. It is then seen that the Russian soldiers are talking among themselves when suddenly the German soldiers drop a bomb there and the Russian soldiers take their position. Caesar is then seen lying in a Russian army camp and a nurse is serving him. He was the youngest in the camp. He could talk so well that everyone loved him, and even the other wounded soldiers in the hospital made fun of him. At that moment, a wounded soldier was brought in, and Kasia went to the operating room to tell Sergei to go to sleep. Some time later, the Russian commander came to the camp and was feeding it with his own hands. The commander came to the camp to see how Sergei was doing. He is very happy to talk to him. He wants to see his gun to the commander. The commander shows him his gun, and he tells him everything about the gun. When he sees the gun, he holds it in his hand and is very happy. The commander then comes out and meets Kasia, who then tells the commander that he wants to keep Sergei here. In fact, the commander was planning to send him to an orphanage. But the commander told him that the war was going on and that it would not be right to keep a small child like Sergei here. And Caesar was only 6 years old at the time, but Kasia told the commander that she loved Sergei so much that she did not want to send him away. The commander informs him that he can't keep his word because there could be no harm to Sergei at any moment. After saying this, the commander left. In fact, all the soldiers were very happy after coming here because the soldiers were very upset to see the horrors of this war, but they were very happy to have Sergei among them. The next day, some Russian soldiers came to the hospital with binoculars to meet him, and they had a good time. This means that no one wants Sergei to go far away from the camp just because the soldiers love him so much. That evening, Kasia and another nurse were doing small chores in their camp. They were discussing Sergei. The nurse told her that she did not like the commander's decision. An elderly Russian army commander is reported to have come to see him, telling him that he loved him very much and did not want him to be sent to an orphanage. Then the commander gifts Sergei with a wooden gun, which he enjoys and embraces. Seeing this, the commander becomes very emotional. Then he asks her, "If you want to be my son?" Sergei nods happily and agrees. And then the commander tore up the application that he had sent to the ashram and hugged the Sergei once more, meaning that from now on their favorite Sergei will be with them in this camp and this commander will adopt him. From today, Sergei's father is this commander. The news spreads in a while and all the soldiers are very happy. Then the plan to make Sergei's dress started. She also needed an army dress, but they did not have a baby dress that she could wear, so they bring all their old dresses and tell the tailor in that camp to make small dresses out of those big dresses. Then he was seen sleeping and dreaming again. He was returning home in a horse-drawn carriage with his parents and grandfather. Just then the commander came into the room and woke him up and told him that from now on you don't have to wear big clothes anymore. I made an army dress for you. He is very happy to see the dress. He takes the dress later and runs to show everyone. German troops then stormed the site and all Russian troops in the area fled to safety. Several soldiers were wounded. Doctors and nurses then began treating the injured. The soldiers who loved him so much, Sergei was very upset and wanted to serve, but in this terrible situation no one listened to him. When he goes to give water to a blind soldier, the soldier tells him that a letter has come from his house and, since he can't see it now, he can't read it, so he should read it to him once. He reads the letter and says he loves him. Everyone in his family loves him very much. The blind man is startled by the cow and tells his that you are wrong because there are no cows in my house, and that's when Sergei's trick was caught. They all understood that he was making up stories. In fact, he was still very young, so he did not know how to read well. On hearing this, another soldier said to the blind soldier, "Don't think that you have a cow in your house and that letter is being read." This time, according to their words, they started making beautiful stories and became very happy to hear the story. Then a soldier asked Sergei to sing a song. Meanwhile, doctors and nurses were treating all the wounded soldiers. The wounded soldiers felt very lucky to hear such a beautiful song from Sergei's mouth. They are very happy to hear Sergei's song, and for a while they forget all their sorrows. Then Sergei and Kasia were seen sitting together, and then the commander comes there. In fact, Kasia and commander love each other, but when the commander goes to tell his mind to Kasia, he gets panicked and can't speak. Even today, as he was about to speak his mind, Sergei woke up and hugged the commander. So even today, Commander Kasia could not speak his mind. Then Kasia left from there. And Sergei's father means the commander's hand hold and walks from there to tell stories. Commander Sergei is shown a hole where German troops had recently dropped a bomb and destroyed their camp. Then we see Caesar saving his beard when some soldiers come in and have fun with Sergei. Then they say to Sergei, "Will you go on a date with someone that you are shaving?" Then he says soldiers never go on dating. Meanwhile, the commander was meeting with other troops in the camp about the next strategy, and just then Sergei arrives and asks the brave gold-like commander how he can help them. All the soldiers there laugh at this, and then the commander tells him to read to them the letters from all the soldiers' houses. Sergei then said that he had cut his cheek while trying to save, so there was such a scar. In fact, a few days ago, when the commander was saving, his face was cut and became a scar. Sergei knew that, so he was acting with cut marks on his face. But the commander catches Sergei's cunning, and all the soldiers there laugh at it. Sergei leaves without wasting time and, as instructed by the command, reads the letters from his house to these soldiers. The soldiers were glad to hear the letters. The soldiers were also dancing with him jokingly after delivering the letter. Sergei was watching from outside the camp boundary with the help of binoculars, and when he saw the footsteps of a soldier hiding in the jungle, he immediately informed the soldiers. The soldiers searched the area and found 2 German spies and arrested them. In fact, these 2 German soldiers were hiding there, keeping an eye on the Russian troops and reporting all their news to the German commander, and there the commander praised the work. The commander then informs him that his adoption letter has arrived today. Sergei and her father go to Kasia to tell her the good news, but when they go there, they see Kasia talking to another man. So he felt very bad and left. On the other hand, the war between Germany and Russia has started again. The Sergei then tells the commander how he will help them in the battle. The commanders were having a hard time seeing Sergei fighting fiercely between the German and Russian armies, and the commander could not communicate with the troops in the other camp. If they can't fix it now, they won't be able to get help from another camp. The commander then sends an army to fix the telephone line, and Sergei is silently following the army. While soldier was fixing the telephone line, there was a sudden explosion, and the soldier was injured. Sergei then bravely went to the injured soldier and asked him how he could fix the telephone line. Sergei very efficiently covers the telephone as instructed by the army, and that telephone line is fixed again. The commander and the soldiers are very happy that the telephone line is fixed, and they tell others camp about their war. A few days later, Sergei comes running to Kasia one day and tells Kasia that the commander's body is so bad that he can't eat or sleep. Now she is afraid to go to him and serve him and heal him, and when he hears this he is very frightened and then he runs to the commander. Kasia then went to the commander's camp and saw that it was all right. Sergei knew that Kasia and the commander liked each other very much, so he wanted them to come closer to each other. If they get close they will be able to speak their minds, and that is why Sergei told this lie. Then the commander went to closely Kasia, but still the commander could not say anything directly to Kasia. The commander then asks Kasia if she will be Sergei's mother. Kasia is very happy to hear this and says yes and agrees to the commander's offer. In the end, the commander told Kasia what was on his mind. On the other hand, it is seen that all the soldiers are leaving their camp and moving to another camp because the order has come and they have to go to another camp and fight there. Sergei, the commander, was going with them to Kasia. After going some distance, they came to a camp. There he ate some food and rested for a while. Sergei sees kids his age there playing with a puppy. The German army attacked them again, and their car was damaged. As a result of this attack, some soldiers were injured. Sergei was very frightened when he saw it. Seeing this, he wept bitterly and pulled him to his chest in the comments. One day while the commander of the new camp and another senior general were talking among themselves, the Sergei came and saluted the commander general, who was very happy. Sergei asks the commander if there is any mission for him today. Then the commander says to make all the troops stand in a line and make a list of the names of those whose shoes are torn and bring them to me. Sergei then walks out to the troops. He instructs the commanders to stand in a line. He makes a list of names like a professional soldier and takes it to the commander. The general is very happy to see his work and appreciates his work. Sergei then makes a request to the general to give permission for the marriage of my father and mother. The commander and the general laughed a lot when they heard this and then left. The next day Sergei was honored as a Russian soldier and was given a reward for his bravery. He was very happy to see Sergei parade in honor of all the soldiers and generals. That night the German army suddenly attacked them again, and this attack was much more terrible than the previous attacks. There was a huge battle between the Russian and German forces. Several Russian soldiers were wounded in the fighting. Sergei had been searching for his father for some time, but nowhere could he find his father. The army tells the rest of the army to find the commander. The soldiers go to look for the commander and the army hugs him. After a while the war stopped. The next morning Sergei comes to see the commander and sees Kasia treating her father. The night before the commander had been severely wounded, Sergei wept at the sight of his father's condition. The commander then smiled and said, "Mans don't cry," meaning the boys don't have to cry. He then gradually recovered, and at the end of the battle commander Kasia and Sergei started living together. At the end of the story we learn that after 27 April 1942, Sergei became fully attached to the Russian army regiment, and Poland goes as far as Germany to fight them. And so ended the true story of Sergei's life, the Soldier Boy movie.